The 24th of December, 1895, Asheville, North Carolina. A new house welcomed its first guests. It was not just any house. It was a giant castle, sitting high up in the rough Blue Ridge Mountains. This grand home, named Biltmore, seemed like a dream made real. A young man with a lot of money, George Vanderbilt, built it. He wanted to make more than just a place to live. He wanted a whole new world, with huge gardens, a special forest, and even its own small town. This is the story of George Vanderbilt's dream that seemed too big to come true. It is a story of great ideas, new ways of doing things, and the hard work it took to make it last. It is also about the fight to keep it going through time. The time was called the Gilded Age in America. This was a special time, roughly from 1870 to 1900. Some people got very, very rich. They made huge amounts of money from things like trains, oil, and factories. They built very fancy houses to show off their wealth. They wanted to show everyone how powerful they were, how much money they had. Many of these houses were big, but Biltmore was different. It was much, much bigger. It was a true wonder, built far from the busy cities where most rich people lived. It stood alone, a sign of one man's will. George Washington Vanderbilt II was born into one of these super-rich families. His grandfather was Cornelius Vanderbilt. Cornelius started with a small boat business. He built it into a giant shipping and railroad empire. He became one of the richest men in America. His family then became one of the most powerful families in the country. They lived lives most people could only dream of, full of servants, fine clothes, and endless parties. Money seemed to flow like a river for them. But George was not like his older brothers. They were busy making more money or showing off their wealth in big cities like New York. George liked books and quiet study more. He loved to learn about plants and trees. He loved art and music. He liked to travel the world and collect beautiful things. He did not care much for the busy world of business, nor for showing off. He had so much money, a fortune beyond belief. But what was he supposed to do with it? This was a heavy question, a secret burden that only George could feel. What do you do when you can have anything you want, but you do not know what you truly want to build for yourself? By the time he was a young man, George Vanderbilt had more money than he could ever spend. He owned a fortune that would be billions of dollars today. This money came from his family, but it was now his to use. What do you do when you have everything? When you can buy anything? This was the puzzle George had to solve. He could build a house anywhere. He could buy paintings from anywhere. But he wanted to create something special, something that would last. He wanted to build a legacy, a mark on the world that was truly his own, something unique and important. He dreamed of a place where he could bring all his books and art, a place where he could study nature and grow beautiful plants. It would be a place of peace, far from the busy cities, a quiet spot for learning and rest. He traveled many places, especially in Europe. He saw grand castles and gardens there. He liked the idea of a large, beautiful estate, like the kings and queens of old had, but he wanted to build it in America. He wanted it to be new, but also timeless. He searched for the perfect spot. Then, in the 1,880 seconds, George found what he was looking for. He came to Asheville, North Carolina. The Blue Ridge Mountains were wild and beautiful. The air was fresh and clean. He loved the tall trees and the rolling hills. He felt a strong pull to this place, like it was calling to him. It was far from everything, a hidden gem. It was perfect for his quiet studies and his love of nature. But this perfect spot was also full of challenges. There was no easy way to build a grand house here, a house like he dreamed of. The land itself was a huge problem. The land he wanted was rugged. It was not flat or easy to build on. It was spread out over many, many miles. Much of it was thick forest. Many small families lived on different parts of it. To get his dream, George would have to buy huge amounts of land, not just a few acres, but enough land to make his own private kingdom, a whole estate larger than some small cities. He began to buy up pieces of land, one after another, quietly but quickly, His plan was kept mostly to himself at first. He bought over 125,000 acres. That is like buying over 95,000 football fields all put together. Imagine lining up 95,000 football fields, one after the other, covering mountains and valleys. That is how much wild mountains and forest he bought. But here is what makes it insane. Much of this land was worn out from old farming. The trees had been cut down by loggers. The soil was poor. It was not a pretty picture. It was not the beautiful, untouched nature he first saw. George wanted to turn this tired land into a beautiful, working forest and garden. Many people thought this was a crazy idea. It seemed impossible. How could one man fix so much land? The local people in Asheville saw this rich young man buying up everything. They did not always understand what he was doing. They just saw a stranger from far away taking over their mountains. Some were happy to sell their land for good money. Others whispered among themselves, wondering what this powerful outsider was up to. It was a huge, complex task, buying land from so many different people, trying to bring order to such a wild and scattered place. But George did not stop. He believed in his vision. He believed he could make something truly great here, something that would help the land and the people. He planned to build a house like no other in America. It would be a French castle, right in the heart of the American wilderness. This was a clash of two worlds, the fancy style of old Europe meeting the wild beauty of American nature. How would it all work? Could such a grand European dream truly live in the rough American mountains? The answer was not clear. No one had ever tried anything like this before. Building Biltmore was not just about money. It was about creating something new from nothing. It was about hard work, clever ideas, and fighting against many problems that no one saw coming. It was a secret fight, happening behind the grand walls as they slowly rose. It was a struggle that few outside the building site truly understood. The ground was hard. The weather was harsh. Everything was a challenge. This dream was going to cost more than just money. It would ask for his full attention. It would change his life forever. He did not know then how many tough choices would lie ahead. He did not know the struggles his family would face to keep his dream alive. He did not know the true cost of such a grand idea, or how close it would come to being lost. But that story was still far off. For now, the dream was just beginning to take shape, deep in the mountains. A dream of beauty, born from immense wealth, facing an uncertain future, and just money. It would ask for his full attention. It would change his life forever. He did not know then how many tough choices would lie ahead. He did not know the struggles his family would face to keep his dream alive. He did not know the true cost of such a grand idea, or how close it would come to being lost. But that story was still far off. For now, the dream was just beginning to take shape, deep in the mountains. A dream of beauty, born from immense wealth, facing an uncertain future. To understand this dream, we must first look at where George Vanderbilt came from. We must look at his family, Cornelius Vanderbilt. The name meant power. It meant money. Lots of it. He was born in 1794. He started small, working on ferries. He was a tough man. He worked hard. He did not care much for what people thought. He built his wealth by moving people and goods, first on boats, then on railroads. He was known as the Commodore. This was not a real Navy rank. This is number desing. It was a nickname because of his many ships. By the time he died in 1877, Cornelius Vanderbilt had more money than most people could even imagine. He had an amazing amount of money. It was about $100 million. That might not sound like much today, but in the 1,870 seconds, it was a giant sum. This was more money than the whole U.S. government had in its treasury. Think of it like this. If someone today had more money than the entire country's savings, that is how rich he was. It was an amount that made his family one of the richest in the world. Cornelius had many children, but he gave most of his money to only one of them, his son, William Henry Vanderbilt. William Henry was just like his father. He was a strong businessman. He worked hard to make the family's money grow even bigger. He He took the railroads and made them even larger. He was very good at what he did. They said the family was too rich, too strong, but William Henry did not care. He kept building. He kept earning. When William Henry died in 1885, he had doubled the family's money. Now, the Vanderbilt fortune was about $200 million. It was even more amazing. This was more money than many small countries had in their entire wealth. William Henry had 8 children. One of them was George Washington Vanderbilt II. He was born in 1862. George was different from his father and his grandfather. He was not interested in business. He did not want to make more money from railroads or shipping. Instead, George loved books. He loved learning. He loved art. He spent his time reading in the family's many libraries. He traveled the world, looking at art and old buildings. He spoke many languages. He was quiet, thoughtful, and liked to spend time by himself. His family built things like railroads and shipping lines. George wanted to build something else, something beautiful, something that would last. George had so much money that he did not have to work. But having so much money can also be a heavy load. What do you do with it? How do you make your own mark when your family has already done so much? This was a puzzle for young George. He felt a silent push. He needed to find his own path. A path that would honor his family's greatness, but still be his own. But he did not know that his path would lead to an even bigger burden, one that would test his family for many years to come. While his brothers were running businesses, George was collecting books. He had a library of over 20,000 books by the time he was a young man. He collected art. He loved to study the past. He was a man of quiet interests, not loud business deals. This was strange for a Vanderbilt. His family was known for being tough, for fighting to get what they wanted in business. But George was calm. He was kind. He was known for being fair. He saw beauty where others saw only land to build a factory. He saw history where others saw only new opportunities for money. This difference would lead him to a dream that no other Vanderbilt had ever thought of. A dream of a perfect place, a grand home, not in a city, not by the sea, but deep in the mountains. He wanted a home that was also a special place for learning and nature, a place where he could think, read, and grow. He wanted to build something that would show his love for art and books, something that would connect him to the natural world. He started to travel, looking for this perfect spot. He looked all over the east coast of America. He looked at many places. He went to forests. He went to small towns. He wanted to find a place that felt right. This search took him many years. He was not in a hurry. He knew that finding the right spot was the most important part of his big plan. George had everything money could buy, but he still felt he needed to do something important, something that mattered. Imagine having more money than you could ever spend. What would you do? Some people would just buy things. Some would try to make even more money. But George wanted to make something that would give back, something that would be a gift to the world in its own way. His family had made a name for itself by taking control, controlling shipping, controlling railroads. George wanted to control something else, beauty. He wanted to create a place that was completely his own vision, a kingdom of peace, art, and nature. It was a very bold idea. Many people might have thought it was crazy to spend so much money on one house, but George was not like other people. He had a deep belief in what he wanted to do. He felt it in his bones. He loved nature. He spent time walking in the woods. He liked to study trees and plants. He even read books about farming and how to make land better. This was not a common hobby for a rich man in the late 1800s. Many rich people bought land to build factories or to make money from it. George saw land differently. He saw it as something to care for, something to improve, not just take from. This gentle side of him was rare in the Vanderbilt family. His grandfather, Cornelius, was known for saying, "The public be damned," when it came to his business deals. But George cared deeply about people and about the land. He wanted his dream home to reflect these values. He wanted a place that would not only be grand but also useful, a place where people could learn, a place where nature could grow well. He did not know then how hard it would be to find such a place, or how much work it would take to turn that place into the vision he held in his mind. The Vanderbilt fortune was built on hard work and even harder business deals. His grandfather, Cornelius, started with almost nothing. His father, William Henry, grew that fortune by being just as tough and smart. Their lives were filled with important meetings, big risks, and the constant fight to win in the world of money. George's life was different. He woke up each day with no need to earn a penny. His family's money was endless, but this freedom came with its own heavy feeling. How do you find meaning when everything is already given to you? For George, the answer was not in getting more, it was in making more. Not more money, but more beauty, more knowledge, more good. He felt a quiet pressure to make his own mark, to show that his generation of Vanderbilt could do something more than just add to the family bank account. He wanted to build a legacy that was about art and nature, not just profit and power. This was a new kind of ambition for a Vanderbilt, an ambition that would take him far away from the busy cities into a quiet mountain range. Many people dream of having endless wealth. They think it would solve all problems, but for George Vanderbilt, it brought a new kind of problem, a problem of purpose. His older brothers and sisters had clear roles. They managed parts of the family's giant business. They lived in grand homes in New York City and by the sea. Cornelius Vanderbilt II, George's oldest brother, built a house in Newport, Rhode Island, called the Breakers. It was huge and fancy, like a palace by the ocean. Another brother, William Kissam Vanderbilt, built Marble House, also in Newport. It was made of marble, looking like a Roman temple. These homes were grand. They showed the world how much money the Vanderbilts had. They were part of showing off their power. But George did not want to show off. He wanted to create. He wanted to learn. He wanted to build something for himself, for his own deep interests. He did not want a house that simply screamed rich. He wanted a house that whispered thoughtful and beautiful. This quiet wish set him apart. It made him different. It made him the one Vanderbilt who would choose mountains over money, books over business meetings. He knew that his creation would be big. It would cost a lot. But he believed it would be worth it. Every single penny. He looked for a place where he could make his grand vision real. A place with clean air, tall trees, and the calm quiet he loved. He studied maps. He read books about different parts of the country. He talked to many people. He was not looking for land that was already perfect. He was looking for land that had the potential to be perfect. Land that he could shape. Land that he could make into his own idea of Eden, a kind of paradise. This idea was very bold, to take wild land and turn it into something carefully planned and beautiful. It was a huge challenge, but George Vanderbilt was ready. He had the money, he had the vision, and soon he would find the place. He would find it in a spot that many people might have overlooked, a place far away from the busy world of New York, a place nestled in the ancient mountains of North Carolina. This would be the place where his grandest dream and greatest challenge would truly begin. George Vanderbilt truly felt a deep longing for something beyond the busy world of his family's wealth. He did not want another grand house in a crowded city like New York. His family already had many big, fancy homes. George wanted a place that was different. He loved to read, filling his mind with knowledge from thousands of books. But he also loved the quiet power of nature. He wanted a place where he could think deeply, surrounded by tall trees and clean air. He dreamed of building something beautiful, not just on the land, but with the land, making it a part of a larger, living work of art. He spent years traveling. He went to different states. He explored many parts of America and even other countries. He was not just looking for a nice spot. He was searching for the perfect place, a place that spoke to his heart, a place with crisp air that filled his lungs and endless views that stretched far away. He pictured a home that would feel like it belonged to the earth, nestled within it, instead of standing out like a proud, new tower. Then, in the late 1882, George discovered North Carolina. He had heard stories about the Blue Ridge Mountains. People called them wild, ancient, and truly beautiful. He traveled through dusty roads, past small, quiet towns, and into the shadow of these huge mountains. When he came to a little town named Asheville, everything changed. It was more than just a place, it was a feeling. Asheville was not a big, bustling city. It was a small mountain town. The air was fresh and cool, always moving through the thick green leaves of the trees. The mountains rose up on every side, like giant sleeping animals. It felt peaceful and untouched. George felt a deep calm settle over him there. He gazed at the gentle, rolling hills and the dark, thick forests that stretched for miles. He saw clear rivers winding through the valleys and small streams rushing over rocks. This was it. This was the promised land he had been looking for all these years. But this perfect vision came with a very big problem. The land was not empty. It was not a single, huge property that could be bought easily. Instead, it was a patchwork. It was made up of hundreds of small farms and tiny pieces of forest. Many, many different people owned small parts of the mountain. George wanted a very large piece of land. He wanted hundreds of thousands of acres. He wanted enough space to create his own private world, a whole new place where nature and beauty would rule. To gather such a huge amount of land was an incredibly hard and slow job. This was many years after the Civil War had ended. Many families living in the mountains were poor. They often owned small plots of land, and sometimes their family papers for that land were not very clear. Some families had lived on the same pieces of land for generations, without ever getting official documents from the government. George's plan meant he had to buy land from hundreds of different families, one by one. Each sale was a separate conversation, a separate handshake, a separate agreement. It was like trying to put together a giant puzzle made of thousands of tiny, oddly shaped pieces. Each piece belonged to a different family, and many did not want to sell. Their families had lived on that land for a long, long time. It was their home, the place where they had been born, where they grew their food, and where their family members were buried. Selling their land meant leaving behind their entire history. It was a very hard, often painful decision. George had to send many people, his agents, to talk to these mountain families. They had to patiently explain his big plan. They had to offer good, fair prices for the land. But for many, simply getting money was not enough. The land was more than dirt and trees. It held their whole life story. It held their memories, their struggles, and their triumphs. Imagine if you had to buy every single house, every small farm, and every piece of woods in a very large county. That is how huge this job was. George wanted not just one grand house and garden, but a whole, huge area, bigger than many cities. He planned to buy more than 125,000 acres. That is a piece of land about 195 square miles. To get a better idea, that is more than twice the size of a place like Washington, D.C. But here is what makes it insane. He was not buying easy, flat land. He was buying steep, wild mountains, deep forests, and rough terrain. Much of it was very hard to reach, with no roads or paths. The local people had mixed feelings about George and his grand plans. Some were happy to get money for land that did not earn them much. It was a way to start a new life. Others were sad and confused. They did not understand why this very rich man from faraway New York wanted so much of their wild mountain world. They saw a man buying up pieces of their homes, changing their way of life. Sometimes, the buying process was even harder. Some land had belonged to families for a very long time, through many generations, but they did not have legal papers to prove it. It was simply known as their land by everyone who lived there. George's team had to work through many old customs, unclear records, and difficult laws. It was a very slow and tiring process. Every single time they bought a piece of land, they had to make sure the ownership was truly clear and correct, so there would be no problems later. This buying work took many years to finish. It was not a quick task like buying a toy. George spent millions of dollars just to buy the land. This was a huge amount of money spent even before one stone for his grand house was put into place. It was a hidden cost, a huge part of his dream that most people never think about. The money came from his family's huge fortune, a fortune built on fast ships and powerful railroads. Now, that same money was used to buy wild mountains. But George did not give up. His vision for this huge piece of land was much more than just a fancy house. He wanted to create a model farm, a place where new and better ways of farming could be tried. He wanted to grow new, healthy trees in the forests. He wanted to help the land get strong and healthy again. Because much of the forest had been cut down carelessly by others, he wanted to fix it. He wanted to show that humans and nature could live together, helping each other, in a beautiful and useful way. His dream was huge, almost impossible to imagine. To build a fancy French castle, like those found in old Europe, right in the middle of the wild American mountains. To change a massive area of rugged wilderness into a carefully planned paradise, it was a secret dream, hidden deep in the heart of the mountains, waiting for its chance to become real. It was a very big promise that George had made to himself, and he was ready to keep it, no matter how hard it seemed. This giant task, this wild plan, almost seemed too big for one man. But George was not alone in his thinking. He knew he would need help. He knew he needed the smartest minds, the most skilled hands, to turn his mountain vision into something truly real. He knew exactly who to call. He would invite two great thinkers, two master builders, to his new mountain home, two men who would help him shape both the land and the house itself. But what amazing things would they create together? And what new and even bigger challenges would they face in this untamed place? George Vanderbilt did not just want a house, he wanted a whole world, a place where nature and beauty lived side by side with the best ideas of his time. To make this dream real, he would need more than just smart plans and big ideas. He would need a true army of workers, working day after day for many years. The year was 1889. The Blue Ridge Mountains around Asheville, North Carolina, were still wild and rugged. There were no wide roads for big wagons to carry heavy stones. There were no factories nearby to make the many bricks or cut the special types of wood needed. Building Biltmore here was like trying to build a giant castle in a faraway land, with very few tools and very few helpers close by. It was a task that seemed almost too big to handle. Richard Morris Hunt, the main house designer, brought his beautiful drawings of a French castle. Frederick Law Olmsted, the expert for the gardens and land, brought his detailed maps. They had amazing ideas, but turning those ideas into something real in this rough mountain place was a completely different matter. The very first big challenge was simple. How do you get everything they needed to the building site? Imagine trying to build a house with 250 rooms, almost like a small town, without any easy way to bring materials. Every single stone, every piece of wood, every bag of cement, and every metal pipe had to travel a long, hard journey over land and up hills. This was not a job for just a few men. This was a job that needed hundreds of strong people, farmers from nearby lands, woodsmen who knew how to cut down trees, skilled stone cutters, clever carpenters, plumbers who understood new water systems, and many, many more. They came from all over, looking for work. They lived in small, simple camps built close to the main building site. Their days were very long and hard, starting from the first light of morning until the sun went down, 6 days a week, often for years. George Vanderbilt knew this would cost a lot of money and time, but he did not know the full, true cost of his grand dream. The hidden challenges, the silent struggles, and the problems that would come after the house was built were still waiting in the years ahead. To build something so large, you need a lot of materials. And to get materials to a remote mountain spot, you need clever ideas. George Vanderbilt found an answer to the biggest problem. He built his own special railroad line. It was not a huge train line for everyone to use, but a small, narrow track built just for Biltmore. This train line went right from the main road, up and over the hills, directly to the building site. It was like a giant, moving belt, bringing everything needed, piece by heavy piece, every single day. Special white limestone, which would be the main stone for the outside walls, came all the way from Indiana, many states away. Beautiful, shiny marble, used for floors and fancy parts inside, was shipped from Italy, Across the wide ocean, these heavy materials were carefully loaded onto ships, then onto regular trains, and finally onto George's own special railroad line. Each journey was long, took many weeks, and was full of possible problems like bad weather or broken tracks. Think about the weight. More than 13 million pounds of stone were brought in just for the outside walls of the house. That is like bringing in 6,500 regular cars, one after another. But here is what makes it insane. They did this over winding mountain roads, through forests, using tools that were simple compared to today's powerful machines. It was an amazing feat of planning and human strength. To make things even faster and to save money on bringing materials from far away, George decided to make some of the building materials right there on his land. He built a brick factory right there in the mountains. This factory made thousands of strong bricks every single day, which were then used for many parts of the house. He also had large woodworking shops where skilled workers cut and shaped all the wood needed for the house, like the beautiful floors, the strong doors, and the fancy wall panels. These were not just simple workshops. They were like small, busy factories, humming with noise from saws and hammers, and filled with the smell of fresh-cut wood. Sawdust covered everything, a sign of constant, hard work. It was a huge, planned effort. But even with all this smart planning and all these powerful tools, there was still so much that could go wrong in building such a massive home. Hundreds of men worked on Biltmore every day, for years. They came from different places, with different skills. There were stonemasons who shaped the hard rock, carpenters who built with wood, iron workers who twisted metal, and many simple laborers who carried and moved heavy loads. They all worked together to make the giant house rise from the ground. They used big tools like steam cranes, which were new and exciting for the time. These machines used steam power to lift huge stones high into the air, making the work faster. But much more of the work was done by hand. Men used hammers, chisels, saws, and their own strong backs. They dug the deep holes for the foundations, laid the heavy stones one by one, and climbed high scaffolding that seemed to touch the sky. The work was very dangerous. Falls could happen easily from the high walls. Heavy objects could drop from above, or huge beams could shift. Injuries were a common part of the job. A broken bone, a deep cut, or even worse, could happen at any moment. There was no easy way to get quick medical help way up in the middle of the mountains. Workers had to be tough, careful, and brave just to do their daily tasks. Their hands were rough and worn from the tools. Their muscles ached at the end of each long day. Their clothes were always dusty or muddy. Each day, the house grew taller and stronger. Each day, more walls went up. More rooms took shape. The constant sound of hammers hitting stone, saws cutting wood, and men calling out to each other filled the valley. It was a loud, constant hum of hard work that never seemed to stop. The beautiful drawings from the designers showed a perfect, finished castle, neat and quiet. But the truth of building it was a messy, loud, and often dangerous construction site, far from any quiet dream. It was a place of dirt, noise, and constant struggle. George Vanderbilt himself was often there, walking around the site, watching the progress with a keen eye. He spoke with the workers and the master builders. He wanted every single detail to be just right, just as he had imagined. He truly put his heart and his enormous fortune into this house. But even with all his money, the costs were always rising. This was not a quick build, like a simple wooden house. This was a massive project that would take 6 full years to finish. 6 long years of constant spending, constant problems to solve, and constant back-breaking work. The true secret of Biltmore was not a hidden room or a dark mystery within its walls. It was the honest truth of how much was given, how much was spent, and how much effort was made to build it. It was the huge amount of money that seemed to go on forever, far more than most people could ever imagine. It was the sweat, the pain, and the quiet dedication of hundreds of workers, many of whose names are not remembered today. It was the silent promise of a rich man who would not stop until his impossible dream stood tall. Building Biltmore was not just putting stones together to make a house. It was building an entire system around it, a small industrial complex, just to support the main goal. The brick factory, the woodworking shops, the special train line, and the living quarters for all the workers. These were like small towns created just to serve the main castle. This was a whole, secret industrial effort, hidden away in the quiet mountains, just to make one man's home. Think about giant building projects today, like new space rockets that go to the moon, or massive sports stadiums. There are still huge teams of people, incredible amounts of money, and very new machines. The ways we build have changed, but the main patterns are the same. Great ideas still need massive human effort and incredibly detailed planning to become real, often at a cost we do not see when we look at the finished product. George Vanderbilt wanted Biltmore to last for a very long time. He wanted it to be a place of beauty, learning, and peace for many generations. He poured his life, his vision, and his family's wealth into it. But such a huge undertaking always carries a heavy price, one that can go far beyond just money. The very act of creating such a grand estate also created a grand financial burden, one that would weigh heavily on those who came after him. The grand size and beauty of Biltmore were clear for everyone to see, even as it was being built. But the true weight of it, the financial problems and crushing taxes it would cause for his family later, was still hidden in the distant future. It was a silent secret that would only show itself many years later, long after George Vanderbilt was gone. The house was rising, beautiful and strong, stone by stone, but the foundation of its future was being laid too, and that foundation would soon face its own huge cracks and challenges, threatening to bring the dream down. The outside of Biltmore House was taking shape. Stone walls rose high, tall towers reached for the sky, but the work was far from over. George Vanderbilt now turned his thoughts to the inside. He wanted more than just a big building. He wanted a home, and not just any home, a place of great beauty, of smart ideas, and of comfort. Every room, every small part, had to be perfect. This was not just a house, it was a giant puzzle, and George was putting every piece in its right place. One of the most special rooms was the library. Imagine walking into a room that is 2 floors tall. All around you, shelves filled with books reached to the ceiling. George Vanderbilt loved to read. He had collected 10,000 books. That is a very large number of books. It is like having a book for every person in a small town. He did not just own these books. He read them. He studied them. He knew what was inside them. His mind was always at work, learning new things. The library was the heart of his thinking. It was a quiet place where he could think big thoughts. George wanted every part of his home to be beautiful. He bought art from all over the world. There were paintings from famous artists. There were soft rugs from faraway lands. There were old statues and tall tapestries that covered entire walls. Furnishing 250 rooms was a giant job. Think about it. Picking out every chair, every table, every plate, every curtain, every bed, every lamp. Each piece had to fit just right. It had to show George's good taste. It had to make the room feel special. Many people worked for months, even years, to make this happen. But George did not know. Making everything perfect would ask for more money than he thought. The cost was piling up, one small choice at a time. Biltmore was not just a pretty house. It was also a house of amazing new ideas. When most people still used candles or oil lamps, Biltmore had electric lights. Imagine living in the dark. Then, with just the flip of a switch, light filled the room. This was a very new thing. Very few homes in America had electricity at this time. Biltmore even had its own small power plant right there on the land. That is like a small town having its own way to make all its power. But here is what makes it crazy. This power was for one family's home. George wanted Biltmore to be truly modern. He wanted it to work like a machine, but feel like a warm home. The new ideas did not stop with lights. Biltmore also had central heating. Warm air flowed through pipes and vents, keeping the whole house warm in winter. Most houses still had cold rooms, heated only by fireplaces. Biltmore also had indoor bathrooms with running water. No more going outside to a cold outhouse. There was an elevator that could take people up and down the many floors. This was very rare for a private home. And in the kitchen, there were big refrigerators. Food stayed fresh longer. These things were not normal. They were far ahead of their time. Biltmore was like a peek into the future. But being first with new ideas can be hard. Sometimes things break. Sometimes they do not work like they should. George also planned many grand rooms for guests. The banquet hall was one of the biggest. It had a huge fireplace. A very long table could sit many people. It was a place for big parties and important meals. The winter garden was another special room. It had a glass roof. Inside, many green plants grew. It was a calm and peaceful place. It felt warm and alive, even when it was cold outside. Outside, winter winds blew. Inside, flowers bloomed. It was like a little piece of magic in the middle of the house. These rooms were made for happy times. They were made to impress. They were made to show off the beauty and newness of Biltmore. But these grand rooms did not take care of themselves. The fancy parts of Biltmore were wonderful, but there was another side to the house. The parts that visitors did not see. The parts where the work was done. Many people worked to keep Biltmore going. There were cooks who made all the food. There were maids who cleaned every room. There were butlers who served the guests. And there were countless others. Their rooms were smaller. Their hallways were simpler. They were often far from the rich, colorful parts of the house. These workers kept the dream alive. They cleaned. They cooked. They carried things. They worked long hours, day after day. The real secret of Biltmore was the unseen army of workers. Their hard effort made the dream work. But there was something else, something hidden in the walls of these simple rooms. The amount of work was massive, and that work cost money, a lot of money. George wanted Biltmore to be its own small world. He wanted it to be self-sufficient. That means it could make its own power. It could grow its own food. It could have everything it needed right there on its own land. Every small detail was planned, from the big gardens to the hidden pipes in the walls. This deep wish to control everything, to make a perfect world, was strong in George. Think about today's smart homes. We can control lights, heat, and music with just a tap on a phone. That same strong wish to control and make life easier started with ideas like George's. It is a very human wish. We all want to build our own perfect, safe space. That wish still drives us to make new things. Biltmore was now finished. It was a house of wonders. It showed what a lot of money and many new ideas could create. It was a place of great beauty. It was a marvel of new machines. But building such a perfect world came with a very high price. The costs were huge. The future was still unknown. George's careful control and planning would soon face a world that was out of control. The house was alive with new ideas. But how long could it stay that way? How long could it keep shining so brightly? The house was built. But a house is not a home until people live in it. George Vanderbilt had created his dream. Now, he would fill it with life. He would fill it with love. He would fill it with family. George was a quiet man. He loved books. He loved nature. He found great joy in his big library, but a big house can feel empty without a partner. He met Edith Stuyvesant Dresser. She was smart. She was kind. She was graceful. George and Edith fell in love. They got married in June 1898. The year is 1898. They started their life together at Biltmore. Edith quickly became the heart of the home. She did not just live in the big house. She helped run it. She helped make it warm and welcoming. She brought a smart and graceful way to Biltmore. She added life to the huge rooms. In 1900, their daughter was born. Her name was Cornelia Stuyvesant Vanderbilt. The year is 1900. She was a light in the grand halls, a small child playing in such a huge place. Her laugh echoed in rooms built for kings. Her nursery was filled with toys and care. Pictures show her smiling. They show her playing on the big lawns. This was not just a grand building. It was a family home. Life at Biltmore was busy. The family had many friends visit. George and Edith loved to have guests. They filled the great rooms with talk and laughter. They ate long dinners in the big banquet hall. They walked through the winter garden, a room full of plants. They spent time in the library, reading and sharing ideas. George often invited smart people to Biltmore. Writers, artists, thinkers. They came from all over the world. They talked about books. They talked about new ideas. Biltmore was not just a fancy house. It was a place for learning. It was a place for discovery. George read many books. He loved to learn. His mind was always thinking of new things. He wanted to make the world better. Edith was very good at having guests. She made sure everyone felt at home. She dressed in fine clothes. She moved with grace. But she was more than just a host. She managed the house. She helped with the farms. She cared deeply for the people who worked for them. She cared for the people in the town nearby. She was a kind leader. She was good with people. She was good with numbers. She knew how to make things work well. Together, George and Edith made a strong team. George Vanderbilt did not just build a big house for himself. He wanted to help others. He built Biltmore Village. It was a small town near his estate. He built houses for his workers. He built a church. He built a school. He made sure the people who worked for him had good lives. He taught them new ways to farm. He taught them how to care for the forests. In Biltmore Village, life was also busy. Children went to school. Families went to church. People learned trades. They learned how to make nice furniture. They learned how to weave cloth. George and Edith wanted the village to be a good place to live. They wanted it to be a place where people could grow. They wanted it to be a place of fairness. He believed in sharing his knowledge. He believed in helping his neighbors. This was a secret side of Biltmore, a side that many people did not see. They saw the great house. They did not always see the kind man who built it. But even in this dream world, worries grew. Running such a huge estate was a never-ending job. It took many people. It took a lot of money. Each day brought new tasks. Each month brought new costs. The Vanderbilts lived a beautiful life, but it was not always easy. It was hard work to keep Biltmore shining. To keep everything running, Biltmore needed many workers. More than 300 people worked inside the house. More worked in the gardens and on the farms. That is like running a small town all by itself. But here is what makes it insane. All these people were needed just to serve one family, to keep their dream alive. Every single day, they lived in a huge house, but they had to keep up appearances. They had to act a certain way. They had many duties. The outside world saw their wealth. They saw their grand parties, but they did not see the quiet worries. They did not see the constant demands. This was the hidden side of their grand life. George and Edith tried their best. They loved their life at Biltmore. They loved their daughter. But a grand house can ask a lot from its owners. A dream can become a heavy load. They were living their best life, but something big was coming. Something they could not stop. Something that would change everything. Think about it today. Famous people, big companies. They show us their perfect lives, their big homes, their amazing parties. But behind the beautiful pictures, there are always costs. There are always worries. The need to keep up a certain image. The need to keep a big dream alive. This pattern is not new. It has always been a part of grand lives. The need to look perfect, even when things are not. This is a lesson from Biltmore. George loved his books. He loved his forests. He loved his family. Edith loved helping people. She loved making their home warm. But the world around Biltmore was changing fast. The easy days of endless money were slowly fading. This was not something they talked about often. It was a secret worry, a quiet fear that lived in the big house. Inside Biltmore, life felt safe. It felt grand. Outside, the world was moving. It was moving toward harder times. This beautiful home, a place of peace, would soon face big storms, storms it could not prepare for, storms that would test the Vanderbilt family in ways they could not imagine. The family lived within the walls of their dream. They shared joy. They shared love. They shared a great home. But the future holds secrets, secrets that would challenge everything they had built, everything they held dear. The house was a marvel. But its future was far from certain. Its future would depend on choices made in the darkest times. Choices that no one could guess now. February 1914, New York City. The storms that no one could guess now had arrived. Not storms of wind or rain, but storms of the heart. George Vanderbilt, still a young man at 51 years old, became very sick. His body felt weak. He went to a hospital for an operation. Everyone hoped he would get better, but his body did not recover from the sickness. His heart stopped beating. The news spread slowly, like a cold chill. George Vanderbilt, the man who built Biltmore, was gone. His death was sudden. It was a great shock to his family, to his friends, to all the people who worked for him, and to the world that watched his grand dream come to life. The dream was still standing, but the dreamer was no longer there. Edith Vanderbilt, his wife, felt a deep pain that day. Her heart ached with sadness. Her world had changed in one moment, without warning. Her husband was not just her partner in life, he was the main vision behind their great home. He was the gentle soul who loved books and nature. Now, she was alone in a very big house. She had their young daughter, Cornelia, a little girl who needed her mother. And she had Biltmore. The huge house was still there. Its many rooms waited. But the man who dreamed it up was gone. Edith had to face a terrible truth. A truth that many rich families learned at that time. A secret hardship that wealth could not always protect you from. When someone with a lot of money passed away, the government would ask for a very big payment. This was called an estate tax. For the Vanderbilt family, with their immense fortune, this tax was enormous. It was a giant bill that had to be paid quickly, a bill that could break even the richest family in America. And it was not just the tax. Biltmore was like a small town all by itself. It needed many people to work there every day. Cooks, cleaners, gardeners, foresters, and more. It needed a lot of money just to keep running smoothly. Every light shining in the hallways, every warm room in the winter, every perfect flower in the gardens. All of these things cost money. A lot of money. Every single month. Edith felt the heavy weight of it all. It pressed down on her shoulders. She wondered, how could she possibly keep this grand dream alive? A dream that now felt like a very big, very heavy burden. Why? Why did this dream, built with so much love and such high hopes, now feel like a stone around her neck? The answer was simple: the sheer size and cost of it all. Biltmore was too big, too expensive, and Edith had to find a way to save it. Edith needed to make a choice, a very hard choice, one that kept her up at night. To save Biltmore, she knew she had to give up part of it. This was not what George would have wanted at all. He loved every part of his land, every tree he had planted, every stream that ran through the mountains. He saw it all as one great, living masterpiece. But Edith knew she had to be strong. She had to make a sacrifice for her family and for George's lasting vision. In 1914, the same year George passed away, Edith began to sell land. Not just a small piece here or there. She made a decision to sell over 80,000 acres of prime forest land to the United States government. To understand how much that is, think of a piece of land that is bigger than many of America's biggest cities combined. It was a truly massive amount of land. This sale was a deep cut to the estate, but it was also a gift. This land became a large part of the Pisgah National Forest, a place for all Americans to enjoy nature. It was a painful choice for Edith, a true test of her love for Biltmore. She was saving Biltmore House, but she was doing it by letting go of George's wider dream of a vast, private kingdom. This sale brought in much-needed money, but the challenges for Biltmore were far from over. In fact, they were about to get much worse. The money from the land sale was enough for a time, but the truth was, it was not enough to last forever. The years went by. Biltmore stayed open. Edith and Cornelia continued to live there. They tried their best to keep the house running, but the family still struggled with money, even after selling so much land. Then, a new, terrible storm hit the entire country. The year was 1929. The Great Depression began. It was a time when many, many people lost their jobs. Many businesses closed down forever. Money became very tight for almost everyone in America. For Biltmore, the Great Depression was a giant threat. Fewer rich people visited Asheville. Fewer people bought goods from the estate's farms. The money coming in was much, much less than the money needed to keep Biltmore going. The great house, this symbol of old wealth, was now truly at risk. It could not pay its bills. It could not stay open much longer. The family's dream was fading fast, like a light struggling in the wind. But Edith did not know. A decision so bold, so shocking, was just around the corner. A decision that would change Biltmore forever. A decision that went against everything George Vanderbilt had planned. Edith and Cornelia looked at their family home, a place of private joy, a place of quiet learning. They had no other choice. They knew they could not keep it to themselves anymore. To save Biltmore, they had to share it with the world. They had to let strangers in. In 1930, Biltmore House did something it was never meant to do. It opened its doors to the public. For the very first time, regular people could walk through its grand rooms. They could see the artworks. They could visit the beautiful gardens. It was a desperate step, a huge gamble. Edith and Cornelia hoped that visitors would pay enough money to keep the house alive. Before, Biltmore was a private kingdom, a family's quiet retreat, hidden from the world. After, it became a public wonder, a place where anyone could visit if they paid a small fee. This was a huge change, a complete turning upside down of George Vanderbilt's original idea. The house had to become a business to survive. This decision was a big risk. In the middle of the Great Depression, people had little money for travel or fun. Would they come to see a rich person's house? Would they pay to walk through its rooms? No one knew for sure. But Edith and Cornelia had to try. It was the only way to save Biltmore. It was the only way to keep George's dream from dying completely. Their hands shook with the weight of the choice. The deepest secret of Biltmore was truly open now. It was not a hidden scandal, but a story of raw survival. It was the very big costs. It was the very hard choices. It was the great sacrifice that a family made. All of this was done just to keep one grand home standing, a home that was a symbol of hope and beauty, a hope that, even in dark times, beauty could still be found and shared. The future of Biltmore now rested on the kindness of strangers and on the lasting wonder of a house that had almost been lost forever. Would enough people come? The year is 1930. The Great Depression had made money very scarce. Biltmore House was open to the public. Many people thought it was a gamble. Would enough people come to see the grand home? Would enough tickets be sold to save it? The answer was yes. Many people did come. But keeping Biltmore alive was still a very hard job. George and Edith's daughter, Cornelia, and her husband, John Cecil, were now in charge. They had to fight a never-ending battle, the battle against time, the battle against wear and tear, and the battle to find enough money. The house was very old. It was very big. It needed constant care. Roofs leaked, paint peeled, old systems broke down. It was like a very large, old boat that always needed fixing. And the family did not have George's endless supply of money anymore. But Cornelia and John loved Biltmore. They did not want to see it fall apart. They tried their best. They worked hard to keep it going through the middle years of the 1900s. After Cornelia, their son, William A.V. Cecil, took over. He felt the same strong love for the home. William understood something important. Biltmore could not just be a museum that cost money. It had to make money. It had to stand on its own feet. This was a completely new idea. It meant changing Biltmore from a house into something more. Something that could pay for itself. But how? How do you turn a giant old home into a business that makes enough money to stay alive? The answer was not simple. It took smart thinking. It took brave ideas. It took a deep love for the land and the home. The family started looking for new ways to make money. They looked at the land. George Vanderbilt had loved farming and trees. He had loved the good soil. Now, William looked at the land with new eyes. He saw potential. He thought about what else Biltmore could offer. Not just a house to tour, but an experience. a full picture of what George had dreamed of. The gardens were a good start. Frederick Law Olmsted's vision for the land was still there. The family worked hard to bring the gardens back to their full glory. They made them even bigger. They made them more beautiful. But there was another idea, a truly bold one. William looked at the soil again. He looked at the warm sun. He looked at the gentle slopes of the land, and he thought of something new for Biltmore, something that had not been there before. What if Biltmore could make wine? This was a big risk. North Carolina was not known for wine. Many people said it would not work. They said the soil was not right. They said the weather was not right. But William did not listen to the doubts. His hands did not shake as he made this big choice. He saw a chance to save Biltmore, to give it new life. But there was something else about this idea, something deeper. It was not just about making money. It was about using the land. It was about honoring George's love for farming. And it was about creating a new kind of beauty, a beauty that you could taste. So, the Biltmore Wine Company was born. It started small. It faced many challenges. But slowly, it grew. Grapes were planted, wine was made, and people came to taste it. They came to buy it. This new business helped bring in money. Money that Biltmore desperately needed to fix its roofs, to mend its walls, to save its old furniture. This was not just business. It was an act of love, an act of dedication. Each year, thousands of people visited Biltmore. They walked through the grand rooms. They looked at the art. They strolled in the gardens. They tasted the wine. The money from these visitors and from the new businesses went straight back into Biltmore. It paid for carpenters. It paid for painters. It paid for experts who knew how to fix old things without changing them too much. They wanted to keep Biltmore just as George had built it. They wanted to keep it truly old and real. The work was never ending. It was a race against time, a race against decay. Imagine trying to keep a building the size of Biltmore perfect. Every single day, something new needed care. It was like having to wash 1,000 dishes every day, knowing more would always come. But the family did not give up. Their dedication was very strong. They understood that Biltmore was more than just a house. It was a piece of history, a work of art, and a place that brought joy to many people. But how long could this last? How much more could they do? Biltmore became a leader in how to take care of old places. They found new ways to show the house, new ways to teach people about its history. They found a balance between being a real home and being a place for many visitors. This was the secret of Biltmore's survival. It was not a hidden treasure. It was not a magical charm. It was the smart thinking. It was the hard work. It was the constant trying of the family. They were like the cleverest business owners, always looking for a new way. They worked to make sure George Vanderbilt's grand dream would never die. They worked so that his beautiful house would not fall silent. Biltmore was not just saved, it was reborn. It grew even stronger. It became a living, breathing part of the mountains once again. It was a story of hope, a story of how to keep a dream alive, no matter how big the problems. The challenge of keeping old things alive. Sound familiar? Today, many old places around the world face the same struggle. From old castles in Europe to historic sites in America, families and groups work hard. They try to find new ways to pay for their care. The pattern repeats. The lesson is clear. To keep our past, we must be smart and work hard in the present. The family turned a very big burden into a very big success. Biltmore became a model. It showed other old homes how they too could survive. It showed how a family's dedication, with some clever business ideas, could save something truly special. The gardens blossomed, the vineyards grew, the house stood tall. Each year, more and more people came to see it. Biltmore was no longer just a private dream. It was a dream shared with the world. And it was all because of the brave choices made by Cornelia and her husband, and then by William. They honored the past by looking to the future. They faced very big problems with very big ideas, and they won. Biltmore stands today as more than just a very big house. It is a story made real in stone, wood, and every tree in its forests. This story teaches us many things that are still important today. It shows how people can have very big dreams. It also shows the deep, hard work needed to keep those dreams alive for a very long time. Look at Biltmore, and you see new ways of building. It was far ahead of its time when it was made. The people who built it used the newest ideas for electricity and indoor water. They even had an elevator when most houses did not. People today, who study old buildings, still learn from how Biltmore was put together. It shows how clever minds can use new tools to make something beautiful and useful. Biltmore also stands as a big reminder of how important it is to save nature. Do you remember Edith Vanderbilt's difficult choice after George passed away? She sold many, many acres of land and thousands of trees to the United States government. This was a very hard thing for her to do, but it saved those forests. It helped form a huge part of what we now call the Pisgah National Forest. Her choice was a great gift, not just to her family, but to everyone. It helped keep many trees safe. It helped protect countless animals. It was a choice that changed the future of a big part of these beautiful mountains forever. Beyond its past, Biltmore helps the people who live around it today. It is like a powerful engine for the area. Each year, it brings many jobs to Asheville and all the towns nearby. Farmers grow food for its restaurants. Local shops sell gifts to its visitors. People come from all over the world to walk its green grounds. They come to see its grand rooms. They stay in local hotels. They eat in local places. All of this helps many local families. It helps the whole area. Biltmore is a strong symbol. It shows what people can do when they work together. It shows how one dream, started long ago, can lift many people up today. The true secret of Biltmore is not a hidden scandal or a dark family mystery. It is something much deeper and much more important. It is the amazing story of human vision. It is about people who had a clear picture in their minds of what could be. It is about their never giving up, even when things were very hard. It is about being able to change and grow when big problems came. It is about always finding new ways to make the dream last. This is called resilience and adaptability. Think about what it really takes to make something great. Then, think about keeping it great for over 100 years. It is not just having a lot of money. It is also endless hard work. It means giving up many personal wishes. It means putting in day after day of effort, year after year. The Vanderbilt family, and later the Cecil family, worked very, very hard. They worried a lot. They made many choices that were hard to make, but they kept George Vanderbilt's big dream from dying. They made sure it would live on. Biltmore needs care every single day, even now. Skilled workers fix parts that get old or break. They carefully clean old art and furniture. They keep the large gardens beautiful and full of life. They teach people who visit about the house's long and rich past. This important work never stops. It is not just a building from the past. It is a living story. It does not just stand still, frozen in time. It continues to teach people. It continues to surprise them. It continues to grow in new ways. Some people might think that having so much money, like the Vanderbilts, meant an easy life with no worries at all. They might believe that money takes away all problems, but the truth was the opposite. Having such a big dream and such a big house brought very big problems. It needed very big sacrifices from everyone involved, from the owners to the workers. But there was something else about Biltmore that many visitors do not think about, something hidden in plain sight. It is how much careful thought went into every single part, from the big plans for the thousands of acres of land to the small, fancy carvings on the walls inside. Every choice was important. Every choice told a small part of the whole story. George Vanderbilt saw every piece as part of a bigger picture. Biltmore is not just about one rich family. It is about all the hands that touched it. It is about the many workers who built it. It is about the brave people who saved it from ruin. It is about those who keep it open and safe today. Their hard work makes Biltmore truly special. It is their dedication that lets us still walk through its doors. It stands as a grand monument. It shows the biggest hopes of the Gilded Age. That was a time when some families had huge amounts of money and big plans. It is like a museum that is still breathing. It shows how clever and daring Americans can be. Today, Biltmore has about 1.7 million visitors each year. That is like having every single person from a city the size of Philadelphia visit the estate every year. But here is what makes it insane. Just to care for the house, the vast grounds, and all the staff who work there, Biltmore needs to bring in about $170 million each year. This money is what keeps the dream alive. It is a very big business. It is a business that works to protect history and share it with the world. The constant care, the clever new ideas to keep Biltmore going strong, the careful balance of old ways and new ways. Does this sound familiar to you? Many old and important places all around the world today face these same struggles. People everywhere try very hard to keep history alive. They also want to make sure these places are useful and meaningful for our time. The pattern repeats across different places and different times. We learn that saving our past needs new thinking for the future. We must keep finding new solutions to old problems. But how do we keep such a grand place alive without changing what makes it special? This is a question the people at Biltmore ask every day. It is how we manage history. It shows what happens when one person has a very big, bold idea. That idea, when tended with care, can keep going for many, many years. It can keep inspiring people for generations to come. It is a reminder that big dreams need big hearts and strong minds. They need people who will fight for them. But what does it really mean for each of us today? Walking through these beautiful halls, it means that real treasures are not just money. They are not just buildings made of stone. They are the stories these places tell us. They are the lessons we can learn about working hard and never giving up. They are the strength of people who do not give up, no matter how tough things get. Biltmore tells us this story again and again. It whispers it in the quiet halls. It shouts it from the mountain views. It reminds us with every bloom in its gardens. Biltmore is still changing. It is still growing. It finds new ways to keep its long history alive. It finds new ways to share its beauty with more people from all parts of the world. It shows that even a very old dream, born over 100 years ago, can have a very bright future. It shows that vision, if tended with great care, can truly last forever. It stands as a powerful example of what human spirit can do. Biltmore shows what the human spirit can do. It shows that a great vision, if cared for, can live on forever. Today, Biltmore stands strong, more than just a house. It is a story told in stone and trees, a lesson for everyone who visits. It still surprises people with its size and beauty. It is a wonder to look at, just as it was over 100 years ago. The way it was built, with many new ideas for that time, changed how people thought about homes. Imagine a house with its own power, clean water inside, and a machine to take you up and down floors, when most people did not have even one of these things. Biltmore was a giant step forward. It was like seeing the future built right in front of you. It was a time when dreams pushed what was possible. But Biltmore is not only about grand rooms and smart machines. It is also about the large piece of land around it. Remember when Edith Vanderbilt had to make a very hard choice? She had to sell many of the tall trees and large forests to the government. This was a very sad day for her. It was a big part of saving Biltmore from being lost forever. But there was something else. Something hidden in that old act of selling land. This act of letting go of land became a big part of saving nature itself. That choice helped start the Pisgah National Forest. It meant that many trees and wild places would be safe forever, for everyone to enjoy. This was a smart move for Edith and her family, to keep Biltmore afloat, but it was also a great gift to the future. It showed a new way to care for large parts of the earth. Today, Biltmore still cares for its land with the same idea. The people who work there follow the plans of Frederick Law Olmsted, the man who designed its gardens so long ago. They work hard to keep the forests healthy. They teach others how to care for nature, too. This important work never stops. The trees still stand tall because someone chose to protect them. Biltmore is not just a place to visit for fun. It is also a very important part of the city of Asheville. Many people get jobs there. They help the many visitors who come each year. They take great care of the huge house and its many gardens. They grow food and make wine. They also help with stores and places to stay near the estate. This brings a lot of money to the area. It helps many families live well. Biltmore helps the town of Asheville grow and be strong. It acts as a beating heart for the whole region. Think about this. Biltmore brings in millions and millions of dollars each year. That amount of money is like building a small town from scratch every few years. Just from people coming to see this one house. It fuels thousands of local businesses. But here is what makes it insane. All of this started from one family's dream, facing ruin after George Vanderbilt passed away. It was a brave choice by Edith to open its doors to strangers, a choice made out of great need that helped a whole city thrive and continues to do so. Biltmore is a very big idea. It shows what people can do when they dream big dreams and work very hard to make them real. It shows that even when life is very tough, you can find a way to make your dreams last a long time. It is a sign of hope. It tells us that great things are possible if we do not give up. It is a living example of human will. It tells us that beauty and purpose can overcome hardship. But how did this happen? What is the real secret behind such a long life? The true secret of Biltmore is not a dark truth. It is not a scandal hiding in old letters, waiting to be found. The true secret is plain to see, yet many people do not notice it right away. Why? Because it is not a secret of what was done once, long ago, and then finished. It is a secret of what is done every single day by many, many people, without fail. The secret is the vision. George Vanderbilt had a big idea. He wanted to build something amazing, something lasting. He wanted a place for learning and nature. It is also the strength to bounce back. Edith faced a huge problem after George passed away. She had many reasons to give up, but she did not. Her heart ached, but her mind stayed strong. She found a new way forward when no one else could see one, putting the estate before her own sadness. It is the ability to change. The family changed Biltmore from a private home to a place for everyone. They learned new ways to make it work in a changing world. They started new businesses, like making wine from grapes grown on the estate, to help keep it going and pay its bills. They never stopped trying new things to keep the dream alive, always finding new paths. This constant change, this willingness to grow, is a quiet power. The secret is also the cost. Not just money, but a huge amount of hard work, day in and day out. It is the thousands of hours spent by many hands, fixing, cleaning, and caring for every tiny part of the estate, from the highest roof to the deepest basement. It is the quiet giving up of their own wishes made by the family over many years, choosing the well-being of Biltmore over their own private lives. They chose to share their special home with the world, so it would not be lost forever. This is the true heart of Biltmore. But there is more to this living lesson than just hard work and change. Biltmore teaches us how to care for old things. It shows how to keep history alive for the future. It is not enough to just build something grand and beautiful. You must also find ways to keep it grand, year after year, for new eyes to see and enjoy. This means thinking about how to make money to keep it running. It means caring for the land and its animals, like good helpers of the earth. It means teaching people about its past so they can learn from it and carry its story forward. We see big dreams today, just like George Vanderbilt's. People build tall towers that touch the clouds. They plan new cities with smart roads. They try to make new things that last a long time and help everyone. Sound familiar? Today, many old places around the world struggle to stay open. Cities try very hard to save old buildings. They want to remember their history. They do not want old stories to be forgotten. The pattern repeats. Biltmore shows us that keeping old things alive takes more than just money or good intentions. It takes smart planning, brave choices, and a heart that truly cares, year after year, for what is special. This is a lesson for all of us, now and in the future, about how to keep our own history and special places alive. Biltmore is not just old stone and wood. It is a living story that keeps on growing. It tells us about a family who dreamed huge dreams. It tells us about people who worked with all their might. It tells us about the power of new ideas that keep things fresh. It tells us about never giving up, even when things look hopeless. It shows that even the biggest dreams can last if enough people believe in them and work hard to keep them strong. The true value of Biltmore is not found only in its grand rooms or its old paintings. It is found in the story it tells, a story of human vision, strength, and never-ending work. It stands tall, a sign that the dreams of the past can still light up our future. It proves that a great legacy is not just given to you, it is earned every single day by those who care for it with all their heart. Biltmore's story goes much deeper than that. It is a living testament, a way of showing us that even the biggest dreams can last. They can last if enough people believe in them and work hard to keep them strong. The true value of Biltmore is not found only in its grand rooms or its old paintings. It is found in the powerful story it tells, a story of human vision, strength, and never-ending work. It stands tall, a sign that the dreams of the past can still light up our future. It proves that a great legacy is not just given to you, it is earned every single day by those who care for it with all their heart. Today, Biltmore stands as much more than just a big house. It is a grand building that teaches us about amazing design, a true wonder of architecture. It also reminds us of a very big and brave effort to save nature. Think back to Edith Vanderbilt. In the dark times after George passed away, she faced very hard choices. She made an agonizing decision, one that likely brought tears to her eyes. She chose to sell a huge part of the land around Biltmore to the government. This was not a small piece of land at all. It was hundreds of thousands of acres, a vast wilderness of mountains and forests. This land then became the main part of the Pisgah National Forest. It was a forest that George Vanderbilt and Frederick Law Olmsted had already begun to manage carefully, planting trees and caring for the land for many years. But Edith's action made sure that a big part of this wild, beautiful area would be safe forever for everyone. Her choice was painful, a very personal sacrifice, but it showed great wisdom and a far-sighted view for the future of the land and the people. But there was something else in that decision, something hidden that went beyond saving trees. It also helped save Biltmore itself from falling apart. This brave choice did not just save the land for nature, it helped save the house and the rest of the estate too. The money from the sale helped keep Biltmore alive when money was very scarce during the hard years. It helped pay the bills and keep workers paid, ensuring the house could stay standing. Today, Biltmore is a huge part of its home state of North Carolina. It brings thousands of jobs to the area, giving work to many families. It brings millions of visitors from all over the world every single year. These visitors spend money in the nearby towns, supporting many small businesses. The hotels, the restaurants, the stores, all feel the good effect of Biltmore being here, growing because of it. It is a powerful engine for the local towns, helping them grow and stay strong. For many families in the area, Biltmore is more than just a workplace. It is a part of their daily life, a steady presence that has given jobs and hope for generations, a legacy of honest work. How did a rich man's beautiful home, built in a quiet mountain area, become such a powerful force for an entire region? The answer lies in many small acts of caring, repeating over many, many years, building up over time. Biltmore is also a strong symbol for all of us. It shows what people can do when they dream very big and are willing to work very hard for that dream. It stands for the time when America was growing fast, a time called the Gilded Age. People during this time had great hopes and did great things. They built big businesses and even bigger homes. But Biltmore's true secret, the one that has been hiding in plain sight for over 100 years, is not a bad thing or a forgotten story from the past. It is much simpler, much deeper than that. It is about the human spirit itself. The true secret is the powerful mix of human vision and a never-give-up spirit, a will to keep going. It is the story of people who never gave up, even when things were very hard and seemed impossible. George Vanderbilt had a big idea. He saw a palace in the mountains, a grand home surrounded by beautiful nature that he wanted to share. But his vision was not enough by itself to make it real and keep it going. It would take more than just a dream, much more from many hands. He saw the beauty and the grand dream, but the truth was, his dream needed constant, heavy work to stay alive. It needed a daily fight against time and decay. It took the amazing skill of Richard Morris Hunt to design every grand room and every tall tower, turning drawings into stone. It took Frederick Law Olmsted's deep understanding of nature to shape the land, to plant thousands of trees, and to make it a true forest that worked with the house, not against it. It took thousands of workers, day after day, year after year, laying bricks and cutting stone, building roads and carrying heavy loads through tough conditions. Their hands were tired, their backs ached. It took Edith Vanderbilt's brave and difficult choices when sorrow and money problems hit hard, pushing her to sell what she loved, to save what she loved even more. It took Cornelia and her family's steady hands to guide it through difficult times, even opening it to the public when the world faced a Great Depression and few people had money. And it takes many people today, working every hour, every day, to keep the house and grounds beautiful, safe, and ready for visitors who come from far away. Think about it. Every single day, a team of hundreds of dedicated people works to clean all 250 rooms, from the small servant quarters to the grand ballrooms. They care for the thousands of delicate plants and bright flowers in the gardens, trimming and planting anew. They fix anything that breaks in a house that is over 100 years old, a house as big as a small town in itself. That is like having a small army constantly at work, making sure a piece of history does not fall apart. The total cost of this careful work each year is many millions of dollars, much more than any one family could pay on their own. But here is what makes it amazing. This never-ending work is done with great love and deep respect for what Biltmore means to so many people around the globe. And this constant, everyday work is what truly keeps Biltmore's spirit alive and strong, day after day, year after year. Biltmore shows us all how to take care of old and important things. It teaches us how to keep history important and fresh in a fast-changing world. It is a living lesson in how to manage a great piece of the past, how to make it last for new generations to see and learn from. It shows us that adapting, changing with the times, is key to survival for any great place. From a private family home, it slowly became a public wonder that everyone can visit. From needing money and almost failing, it learned to earn its own way and to stand strong as a business. It is a place where old ways of doing things meet new ideas and fresh thinking, making it stronger. This idea of holding on to the past while bravely stepping into the future? Does that sound familiar to you today? Many old places around the world struggle to stay open and cared for. Historic homes, old towns, even big museums often face big money problems. They have to find new ways to bring people in, new ways to pay for keeping things neat and strong. Biltmore faced these problems a long time ago, even before many others. It found clever answers that worked, setting an example. The pattern repeats across history, showing up again and again. The universal lesson is clear. To keep something truly great, you must care for it, change for it, and fight for it every single day. You cannot just leave it alone and expect it to last. The grand mansion and its beautiful lands are not just pretty to look at. They stand as a strong reminder for us all, a powerful message. They tell us that greatness needs constant effort and deep care, much like a living thing. They show us that true strength comes from trying again and again, even after problems or failures. And they show us that dreams, even the biggest and most impossible ones, can truly last through time. They can last if people are willing to believe and to work for them with all their heart for generations to come. But what does it truly mean to have a legacy this big? How does it shape the future, not just for one family, but for everyone? The next and final chapter will try to answer this for all of us. Looking to tomorrow. From a grand idea born in one man's mind, Biltmore has traveled a long and winding road. It went from being a huge private home to a place known all over the country. It has stood strong through big wars, hard money times, like the Great Depression and the never-ending march of days and years. The story of Biltmore is not just about stone and steel. It is about something much deeper. The real secret of Biltmore is not a hidden scandal or a forgotten room. It is much more powerful. It is found in the strong will of a family who would not give up. It is found in the smart ideas of the people who built it. And it is found in the many hard choices and important gifts made to make sure it would last. This is the truth that has kept Biltmore alive. But what did that truth truly cost them? George Vanderbilt first had the big dream. He saw a palace in the mountains. He poured his life's energy into building it, filling it with books and art, and making sure it had new ideas, like electric lights and warm air heating. His vision was huge. His hands must have felt tired many times, but his early death left a giant problem behind. The future of his grand home suddenly seemed to hang in the air, a question mark over the vast estate. It was Edith, his wife, who had to face that problem. Her world felt like it had stopped. She was left with the most wonderful house, but also with huge taxes and costs. The future of Biltmore, her home, seemed unsure. She had to make hard choices, like selling large parts of the forest. This forest became part of a bigger forest for everyone to enjoy, the Pisgah National Forest. Her choice was not easy. Her heart must have hurt greatly. She walked those grounds knowing that pieces of George's dream were being sold, but she did it to keep the main house safe. This act of giving up a part of the dream to save the whole dream was truly amazing. It was a secret sacrifice that shaped the future of American nature for all time. Later, their daughter Cornelia and her husband, John Cecil, worked hard to keep Biltmore going. The world kept changing around them, especially during the tough times of the Great Depression. Many grand homes like Biltmore were lost, but the Cecils did not let that happen. They made the brave choice to open Biltmore House to the public in 1930. This was a very bold step. Their private family home suddenly became a place where anyone could visit. It was a risk. Would people come? Would it be enough to save Biltmore? The answer, at the time, was not clear. They hoped for the best, but the struggle was real. Then, their son William took over. He brought new ideas, like making wine on the estate. This helped Biltmore to earn money on its own. It showed that even a grand old place needed new ways to stay alive. The family learned that to keep a treasure from the past, you sometimes need new ways of thinking. They found ways to make Biltmore work as a business, not just a house. This made sure that the big dream would last for many more years. They faced the constant need to fix things, to keep the old beauty new. It was a never-ending job, a steady hand needed day after day. But Biltmore is more than just a family story. It stands as a big sign of what people dreamed of during the Gilded Age, a time of great wealth. It is a living museum, showing how smart people in America were with building and planning. Every brick, every painting, every tree in the garden tells a story of skill and vision. It teaches us about what people can make when they work together on a huge scale. The house itself covers about 4 acres. That is like 4 football fields, just for the house. But here is what makes it even more surprising. The entire estate today is still about 8,000 acres. That is almost 12.5 square miles, like a small city. It reminds us of the huge effort it takes to build and keep such a place running. It is a world within itself. It is also a powerful reminder that true great things are not just built with stone and strong metal. They are built with a big idea in mind. They are built with the strength to keep going, even when things are very hard. And they are built with a firm belief in a dream that seems impossible at first. This is the real power of Biltmore. It shows us that big dreams need big hearts to keep them alive. It shows us that nothing truly great is ever easy. What does this mean for us today? Biltmore asks us questions that are still important for our own lives and our world. How should people use their wealth? George Vanderbilt built Biltmore, but his family made sure it helped many people by creating a national forest and providing jobs. This makes us wonder about wealth today. Sound familiar? Today, we see big companies and rich people, and we often ask how they help the world. Biltmore shows us that great wealth can lead to great good if it is used with care and thought for others. This pattern repeats itself through history. How can we save important places from the past? Biltmore's story of saving itself by changing, by opening its doors, shows us how to think about old buildings and nature around us. Do we just let them fall apart, or do we find new ways to make them useful and loved? The answers are not always easy, but Biltmore gives us hope and ideas. How do dreams change over time? George's dream was a private home, but now it is a public treasure. This shows that the purpose of something grand can grow and change far beyond what its first owner ever thought. It teaches us that our own dreams, too, might grow into something much bigger than we first imagined, taking on new meanings we could not see at the start. And how can we make our own marks on the world? Marks that will last. Biltmore tells us that small actions, like Edith's painful choice, can have huge impacts that last for many years. It is a reminder that every effort, big or small, plays a part. Biltmore continues to be a place where new things happen. It helps the town of Asheville and many people who work there. It brings many visitors who learn about history and nature. It shows us that history is not just in books, it is alive. It keeps growing and changing, like the trees in its very old forest. The story of Biltmore is not truly over. It is still being written, day by day, by every visitor who walks through its doors, by every worker who helps keep it beautiful. It is still teaching us about what it means to build, to preserve, and to dream. The Biltmore story tells us that truly great ideas need care, not just for one lifetime, but for many. It is a lesson in how to build something that lasts, not just for you, but for the future. It teaches us about the courage it takes to keep a big dream alive, year after year, century after century. It is a promise that beauty and hard work can stand against everything. It proves that an improbable dream, given enough heart and spirit, can indeed become a timeless legacy that shines on. And it shows us that sometimes the greatest secret is simply the power of never giving up.